Hello and welcome to the first episode of HalfTimeCuppa's Halftime Podcast, a 15-minute show where we discuss a variety of topics across the footballing world. The show's format may vary from week to week, but this will be explained later on. Obviously, myself, Danny Cook, I'm hosting, but joining me, I have Charlie Pumfrey, who's a Brighton fan.
Hello, Danny.
Hello, Charlie. How are you doing today?
I am good. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem whatsoever. Thank you for coming on. And joining Charlie in the other corner, we have Kieran Moss. Hello, Kieran.
Hi, you're right.
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you this
I'm all good.
beautiful day? Good, fantastic. So now on to today's format. So as I said, this may vary from podcast to podcast once we've sort of found something that works. But here's just sort of the general idea anyway. So the panelists will be debating a topic. Each panelist will have to either argue in favour or argue against the topic to decide who will be fighting for or against, or it has already been done. We've already done it, but we normally will toss a coin on the show and go from there. But today's topic is, will Manchester United win the Premier League? And the winner, of course, of this debate will be decided by you, the listener, by casting your votes in the poll below. So let's begin with, let's reveal who's got what. So Kieran, what one have you got?
I am saying that Manchester United will win the Premier League.
So Kieran is arguing for, and Charlie?
Yeah, I'm arguing against. Obviously, there's not really many other ways you can go.
No, that's true.
There's not much of a debate, unfortunately. We both say they can win the league.
So should we kick it off with Kieran then? Kieran, because you're going to be in favour. Tell us why you think Manchester United might win the league.
They already have a very strong squad, as has been shown throughout the season so far. But with the players that are currently injured, it can only get stronger. So, for example, Pogba's got injured, but Fellaini's filled in quite well. They've still got players on the bench they could bring off, like Bailly didn't play against Crystal Palace. Lindelof didn't play against Crystal Palace. We're still waiting to see him in action. So I just think their squad depth is still a lot greater than some of their other rivals, especially considering they've still got Zlatan Ibrahimovic to come back. And with the form that Lukaku's on, especially, Zlatan's going to probably have to perform in order to try and get his spot back in the starting 11.
Let's cut straight to Charlie. Charlie, what's your thoughts on Kieran's initial piece there, initial argument?
Well, I mean, it's a very positive outlook, isn't it, on that situation? But if you can look at it from another angle and say, well, yeah, they've lost Pogba and he's out for an undisclosed period of time now. Something that even Mourinho said is going to be a long-term injury. And you look at the players replacing him. I mean, Fellaini scored twice at the weekend, but I doubt he's going to come up against a defence like Crystal Palace's every week. And then you look at, Zlatan will come back, but he might not be the player he was 6 months ago, maybe a year ago. So there's a lot of variables at the moment. And you look at the other teams. You look at teams like Manchester City. They've got players like Bernardo Silva who can't get in the team. I think your point about squad depth in other teams, I don't think is quite as strong if you actually have a look through those other squads.
Okay, and to Kieran, just on the back of that as well, who do you think is going to be key for Manchester United this season if they are to go on to win?
Well, you've got the likes of, obviously, Lukaku. He's got 10 goals for United already this season, I believe. But then you've got players at the back as well, like Phil Jones has had a sort of renaissance this season, in part of a defence that have only actually conceded in one game, which was the 2-2 draw with Stoke. So I think they've actually kept 6 clean sheets this season so far. Obviously helped by David De Gea in goal as well. So I think there's players dotted around the pitch. But the one I'm going to point out most is probably Nemanja Matic. I think Chelsea were quite stupid to let him go, especially to a rival that they knew would be challenging for the title. He's a solid player and he's got talent that would help any team in the Prem.
Okay, so we've just heard the I suppose the strengths in Manchester United's case. Charlie, who would you single out as the weaknesses, the weak links?
If I'm being honest, going forward, Man United are very strong. But if you look at the other end of the pitch, they suffer, for me, what might be a very similar issue to Liverpool. You look at their back line, they've got players at fullback that, I'm going to be honest, Antonio Valencia, however good he is getting forward against the smaller teams, is he going to get exploited against the bigger teams? Man United are yet to play one of the conventional top 6. And this month, their next Premier League game is, having just checked, his away at Liverpool. So, I mean, that's a place where they are going to have to be solid at the back. And I'm going to be honest, if they're going to be tested, it's going to be up to them to find out whether they actually can pass that test.
Yeah, and just on that, Kieran, obviously Charlie's mentioned the conventional top 6 and that they haven't really faced that challenge yet. Do you think that that's a hurdle that they can sort of overcome this season?
Oh, yeah, clearly. Like last season, especially, they were the first team to beat Tottenham, who were flying at that point. So they clearly have the credentials in order to beat them. Whether they can or not, we'll have to wait and see. But they have the squad, and the players probably have very, very high morales at the moment, considering they're winning probably 4-0 every week, sometimes 4-0 midweek as well. So it's only going to help them. And I think when they come up against, you say Liverpool next week, Liverpool aren't doing great at the moment. I think United will wipe the floor with them comfortably.
And just off the back of that as well, so Kieran, you seem to think they're going to wipe the floor with Liverpool. Charlie, where do you see the sticky situations coming this season? Is it going to be against the minnows in the league, or is it going to be against the top sides?
Well, clearly, Man United have shown that they're very strong against those smaller teams, as we like to put them. But you look at their Christmas period in December, they play Arsenal away, they play Man City at home. They have to go away to places like Leicester as well that aren't easy places to go. I think it's just going to come down to a crunch run of form. And I think with this Man United team, there's a few figures in there that might not be up to that task. If you look in there, I think against teams of real quality and confidence, I mean, if you look at the teams they've played teams like Everton who've been out of form, they've played Crystal Palace who are out of form. And so I think when they come up against someone that really is set in their ways, look at the Stoke game. Stoke beat Arsenal the week before, came into the Man United game, came in with a very strict strategy, and I think that really did stutter Man United, to be honest.
And I mean, Kieran, going back to you, obviously your point of view and why you think they're in favour of winning. Do you think that maybe their performance in Europe would benefit or sort of hinder their success?
I mean, the obvious answer to give to that would be it would hinder them. But the 2 games they've played so far, they've scored 7 goals and they've only conceded the 1. Yes, you could argue they haven't come up against anyone yet. I mean, they've got the Benfica away game in a couple of weeks. But no, I think, especially in terms of squad morale, like I say, if they're winning, like this week just gone, 4-1 against Moscow away, which is a hard place to go, and then 4-0 at home to Crystal Palace, it's only going to help the side improve and keep going on this good run of form.
And let's see the flip side of this argument. Charlie, European campaign, do you think it'll cause more problems?
Yeah, I think with Man United, I think they've been given a bit of a cushion, really, by the fact they've been in the Europa League the last couple of years. And so they've had the same sort of fixtures at the same sort of times. So that might help them. But to be honest, you look at their European group, it's not really as much of a test as the other English groups. You look at Tottenham, have got Real Madrid and Dortmund in their group, and they're performing in that group. So would you say that because of that positive form, they come into the Premier League even better? I think you can say whatever argument you're going to say for Man United, you could say about Manchester City, you could say about Tottenham, you could say, not really about Liverpool, but you could say about Chelsea, who beat Atletico Madrid in the last week. And I think for me, when those big fixtures start to pile up, it'll be a real test on what is, to be fair, in places an inexperienced Man United squad.
And in terms of Jose, big old Jose Mourinho, Kieran, I mean, is he the guy to lead them back to Premier League glory?
I mean, I won't get you wrong. I don't particularly like Jose Mourinho. I think he's quite a controversial character, to say the least. But he's a proven winner. He wins trophies. So there's no reason why he can't succeed at Man United. And yes, going back to the argument that they haven't played any of the conventional top 6, but even if they won every single game apart from the 10 games they'd have to play against the top 6, they'd still have 84 points. So even if they picked up maybe a win at Liverpool or a win at Arsenal, that's already 90, which would probably comfortably see them win the title, I reckon, this season.
That's a fair point. Charlie, likewise, Mourinho, is he the guy to do it?
Just a quick, well done on those quick maths. Not done anything like that with my arguments, to be honest. But you look for me, Mourinho, is as good a motivator as he is an alienator. You look, there are already people in that Man United squad that have been left out by him. Players with incredible potential, that is real high potential, with Luke Shaw just being left out of the squad and being left out. I mean, there's quite a few players, and I think at times, if that goes wrong, if they start to drop a couple of points here and there, I think it can go south real quick for Man United. A lot of money's been put into that team under him as well. And so I think there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on people like Lukaku, who has scored a lot of goals at this point. He's someone that there are still questions about him. There are still questions about whether he can cut it against the big teams. And I think that will be whether he can keep them together in those tough times.
And Kieran, how can he quash that sort of pressure on him? As Charlie said, he spent his money. How can he quash that pressure?
He has some very interesting ways of dealing with players. So, for example, last year he left Mkhitaryan out of the side for the majority of the season, but he's brought him in this season, and he's doing really well for himself so far. And I think he's doing a similar thing with Lindelof, which I see who they spent quite a bit of money on. Obviously, players like Lukaku already had Premier League quality. He was a proven goal scorer. Anyone would be stupid not to pay the money they paid for him, I reckon. So I don't think the money's as much of an issue as people think it is, because it's smart spending at the end of the day. But no, I think at the end of the day, he's a quality manager. You can't deny that. And he's been in situations like this before where he's had to spend a lot of money at Chelsea. Yeah, maybe it might not have gone wrong for him. But Man United's a different philosophy. Man United's arguably a bigger club in terms of history. So I reckon he'll have the backing of the board a lot more than he would have done at the likes of Chelsea and Real.
An interesting point, just to come back on that one.
Yeah, go, and then I've got a question for you. Yeah,
go. The way he handles things. I mean, if you're looking at what's going to happen when Ibrahimovic comes back, you've pointed him out as a real plus point for that squad. What if Ibrahimovic comes back and Mourinho isn't willing to put him and Lukaku in? How's he going to deal with those two quite big personalities? I mean, if I'm doing my quick maths here, 2 into 1 doesn't go.
Go on then, Kieran.
I'd say I think it would be smart for him not to bring the Ibrahimovic in straight away. If he played Ibrahimovic in European games, if he got scoring, that would push Lukaku on to score more, I'd say, because Lukaku wants to keep his place in the side. So the fact that they've got 2 top quality strikers isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just means that they'll have to perform more and prove why they should be like the number 1 striker in the team. It will be healthy competition.
I don't know if those two characters are I don't think Zlatan's the sort of person that can sit on the bench and see someone else taking the limelight. I mean, come on, he's created a brand around the fact that he sees himself as the best. Are you the best when you're sitting on the bench for someone else?
If that was the case, though, he wouldn't have signed the contract with Man United after they'd signed Lukaku.
I mean, if your confidence is as high as his is, I can imagine that you'd sign that contract in the knowledge that, Lukaku might not take off, and I still back myself, even at 35, I believe it is. I can get into that team and really dominate that. I think if that doesn't come off for him, I think he could have a real issue in that dressing room.
Okay, well, we've just unfortunately ran out of time. That was starting to heat up by the end. I quite enjoyed listening to that. So thank you very much, guys. What we will just play now very shortly is a couple of clips. We've just gone out and just interviewed a few people, sort of yes, no answer to this topic. So we'll just get their responses now.
Can Manchester United win the Premier League?
Yes, they have a very strong squad, so they're more likely between them and City.
Yes, simply being because they've improved their strike force, which was needed because they're missing a lot of chances last season. Pogba's looking good now, and their defence is a lot more solid. So yeah, they look very, very strong contenders.
If it wasn't for City, yes, I think against the bigger teams, City have already shown at the Chelsea game at the weekend that Man City are going to go at opponents, even the big teams. I think with Mourinho in charge of United, against the bigger teams, he showed it last season, he does like to sit back a bit more. I think with City going forward at opponents and just looking to win games instead of draw, we looked at the Man United-Liverpool game in specifics last year, I don't think that Man United will have the edge over City, especially in the big games.
Okay, and we are back. And obviously, the full-time whistle has blown on the fantastic debate we've had. Don't forget that you get to decide who the winner is by casting your vote below. Be sure to check out the various other pieces of content we have on the site. Charlie, in particular, has wrote some fantastic alternate football histories. So, yeah, please do go and check them out, as well as our football predictor. Finally, a shout out, obviously, to today's panelists, Kieran Moss and Charlie Pumfrey. Thank you very much for coming on. Very quickly, do you guys want to just give out your socials and then we'll finish?
Yeah, you can find me just at Charlie Pumfrey on Twitter.
Mine is at Kieran Moss 97.
There we go. And mine is at Danny Cook 1996. So thanks again for joining us today on the first episode of the Halftime podcast on halftimecuppa.com. Thank you very much and goodbye.